I think as Christians, we have a habit of kind of over-spiritualizing Christmas and trying to find God in like every aspect of the holiday. To be honest, Christmas has lost a little bit of its magic for me. This could be because I'm just, a little bit older than I used to be, and my family's maybe less into it as well. I think one day I noticed that a bunch of other countries have really weird Christmas traditions. In North America, we have some pretty weird ones too. There are a bunch of symbols and traditions that we hold sacred in our minds, but they're only really a big deal because they were installed into our minds at a young age. I think most non-Christians recognize like, hey, this is all pretty random and weird, but let's just get into it because it's fun and nostalgic as well, and you get to spend time with your family. Or they just stop caring. For a Christian, we'll get into the traditions and all that fun, but most of us will maintain that like Jesus coming is really the only redeeming part of this holiday. Except that's really arbitrary as well, because as most of us all know, because everyone wants to sound smart and point it out, Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. He was probably born in the spring, or the summer, or the fall.
Christmas is all about Jesus.
Is it though? I mean, in that case, Easter should be a bigger deal for you than Christmas, because that's kind of like when we celebrate Jesus rising from the dead. Pretty foundational to the Christian faith, if you ask me.
Now you listen here. Without Christmas, we wouldn't have Easter.
But without Easter, Christmas wouldn't matter. I mean, sure, he had to actually come to be raised from the dead, but if he hadn't been raised from the dead, then him coming wouldn't matter. He'd just be another religious dude that died 2,000 years ago that no one would really care about now. So what I'm trying to get at is there are three types of Christians that over-spiritualize Christmas. Political Peter. By the way, all these people will be given biblical names, just a little heads up.
These people are taking Christ out of Christmas.
Look, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but we did the same thing to other holidays. So the first reported case of December 25th being known as Jesus' birthday was when Sextus Julius Africanus somehow came up with the date that he was conceived on March 25th, which is exactly 9 months before, I don't know, some random day in December. We don't really know how he got those dates, so just kind of roll with it. And then Constantine turned the Roman Empire pretty Christian crazy and all that, and he wanted to convert more of the pagans, and so he's like, how can we appeal to them? Hey, let's take one of their holidays and turn it Christian. So they took Saturnalia, which was a huge sinful pagan day, and they turned it into basically a celebration of Christ's birth. But can you imagine those people that worshipped Saturn getting all mad because Constantine took their holiday?
These people are taking Saturn out of Saturnalia.
So yeah, we did the same thing.
No. We're justified because unlike all those other religions, we're right. No. We're justified in being jerks because we're right.
That takes you to some pretty scary places. Like, could you imagine if every different person of every different belief did that? Besides, you're never gonna win someone over with that kind of logic. You can't expect non-Christians to honor traditions they don't care about. It's really easy to get mad when your religion is being stolen. But when somebody else's religion is being forced upon you, you just wanna tell them like, hey man, leave me alone, I don't really care.
Happy holidays is stupid.
If it's being said to avoid offending non-Christians, then I agree, that's really stupid. It's Christmas and it's always gonna be Christmas. And if they celebrate a different holiday, I can't imagine them being too mad if you accidentally said Merry Christmas. Oh hey man, Merry Christmas. I'm actually Jewish, so I celebrate Hanukkah. Oh, okay, well, Happy Hanukkah. Thanks man, Merry Christmas. Wow, it's amazing what happens when you don't go around looking for reasons to be offended. But if Happy Holidays is being used as a blanket term for other holidays celebrated around the same time, like Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, then who really cares? They're trying to fit everyone into their little descriptor thing. Words, man. They're hard. So be unashamed of your celebration of Christ. And I do think it's true that the liberal media does try to downplay the whole Christ in Christmas, but maybe be a little bit less of a vigilante about it. Being less knee-jerky and more understanding and patient is never a bad thing. Christmas-loving Kirk. What, that's not a Christian enough name for you? Oh, don't worry. I had a certain Kirk in mind. Basically, in the movie Saving Christmas, Kirk Cameron tries to argue that like every major Christmas symbol somehow points back to the gospel, or Jesus, or God, or something. Now, I haven't actually met someone that believes this to that extent. I mostly just wanted to rip into saving Christmas without actually making a separate video. But the hole in the reasoning here is that just because you think a symbol means something in the gospel doesn't mean that anyone else thinks that symbol stands for that. If I say, oh, communion is more than just drinking wine / grape juice and eating bread because it's commemorating Christ's sacrifice, so it's supposed to like represent his body and stuff. I can say that because Jesus said that, and that's why we do it. But I can't say that Christmas trees have something to do with trees in the Garden of Eden. Because the reason the Christmas tree is the Christmas tree has nothing to do with the Garden of Eden. All this symbolism you made up is just in your head. It sounds really nice, but it makes no logical sense. Pagan Paul. Now, Pagan Paul over-spiritualizes Christmas in a different way than the first two. Pagan Paul takes all the Christmas stuff that has pagan origins and says, yeah, don't celebrate any of that stuff because it's all pagan and evil. In fact, I make it a habit to look down on anyone that celebrates any of those things. Guess they just don't know as much as I do. Back in the day, the polytheistic Greeks and Romans believed that evil spirits attached themselves to food, and the only way to get rid of this contamination was to sacrifice it to a god. In doing so, you would gain favor with the god, and in doing so, decontaminate the food as well. If it wasn't sacrificed, it was served at a pagan feast. And if it wasn't eaten there, then it was just sold in the street market. So the mature believers recognized that these deities weren't real and that eating the food wasn't sinful because those gods had no power. But they were supposed to combine their knowledge with love so as not to offend the less mature believers that would be offended if they ate the food. This idol food gave the less mature believers that had just converted a guilty, fearful conscience. And it was liable to make them fall back into the old habits they had before they were saved. Pretty much all these old habits were sinful, except eating the idol food. But because it was a gateway drug, so to speak, the more mature believers were supposed to avoid eating the food so as not to make the less mature believers fall back into old sins. You're not honoring a pagan god if you celebrate a tradition that used to be pagan, because that pagan god has no real power because he isn't real. Oh, sorry, I was just cross-referencing with the original King James. In that passage, Paul actually tells his people to not do the thing for the sake of others. So, I'm still right, I think. Have you worshipped a Christmas tree before? Does December 25th trigger you because it reminds you of all the sinful things you did during the pagan celebration of Saturnalia? Okay, good, because that's like the entire context of this passage. We deny God power when we claim that certain things are inherently cursed forever. Because Saturnalia and trees were used by pagans before, those things are now totally evil forever. Spoiler alert, God created both of those things, and for his glory no less. Do both of those things have pagan roots? Sure, I'll bite. But both of those things are symbols that were used in sinful ways that aren't actually inherently sinful themselves. So stop getting conspiratorial and looking for reasons to condemn people when there's no biblical precedent for it. Jesus got pretty mad at the Pharisees for doing that exact thing. As believers, we have the opportunity to redeem symbols that were used for evil before. The Bible says to do everything to the glory of God, so you can celebrate Christmas to the glory of God. Christmas honors and glorifies Jesus because you can use it to commemorate the things he's given you. Enjoy it. Be grateful. Spend time with your family. Give gifts. And while celebrating Jesus' birth on that day is pretty arbitrary, forcing yourself to do it is a great reminder that none of that other stuff would be possible without him. I don't know about you, but all of that sounds extremely Christ-centered. Christmas is fun. Enjoy it. Revel in it. It truly can be magical. Just enjoy it for what it is. Hey you there, thanks for watching that video. Here are some more videos you might enjoy. And to be honest, I'm filming this on Boxing Day, so probably start editing.